I don't know. I feel that's also kind of weird considering Dagoth's whole thing was being a Sharmat, and we know that's very associated with her Memora.
Well, yeah, but there's also the whole dreams thing.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. And Vermina is her realm is the realm of nightmares. I get it.
yup. So, I guess here we go.
Oh, god damn these pills.
Oh, that's Facebook.
Oh.
I don't want that. God damn these pills. Hi internet. Uh, we're back for Lorechat 34 and a half. Because I
the
fucked up.
Veckening.
The Veckening. Because I fucked it up last time.
Exactly.
So here we are. Doing it again. And I guess to start with, we are talking about the fourth anticipation. There was a post in the Dream Sleeve about asking about a fourth anticipation in the Dunmerry faith. And hey, there's Matt.
I
What's up, Matt?
guess.
Hi.
I burped. And so, what do we think? If someone want to recap the whole thing here,
I can't hear anyone.
you can't hear anyone.
Scuffed streamers.
You can't. Oh, okay. Oh, that sounded like a pepcat error, personally.
Anyway,
Take it away, Felix. Take it away.
Oh, no, because I'm also just reading about this now. So apparently there's rumors of a fourth good daedra who's in anticipation, and many believe it's supposed to be the anticipation of Dagoth-Ur.
Nocturnal.
Actually, a lot of people are saying it's Vermina. But other strong contenders, aside from Vermina, are Hermaeus Mora, are the three names that I hear bandied about a lot.
And Nocturnal too.
I feel that, if anything, it shouldn't be for Dagoth-Ur. There should be one for Nerevar, like Saint. Maybe that's not possible for a variety of reasons, some of which I can understand.
Nerevar is the of Nerevar.
I figured Nerevar would be his own anticipation, which is kind of interesting. But what's that?
Each one.
All of them. So switching to Dagoth-Ur real quick. I mean, I guess we gotta kind of wonder. I mean, what does it mean to be an anticipation in the first place? I mean, because I associate the anticipations with basically that they have to be incredibly important daedra in the eyes of Dunmerry culture, right? And looking at the different Dunmerry holy texts and whatever else. I mean, there's nothing that even talks about Vermina. So how could Vermina be a fourth anticipation if she was not really present in the Dunmerry faith? See what I'm saying? What do you think?
Yeah. I agree with you.
Damn it.
Not question.
They fill these cans so
Is it streaming?
much. Yep. Fuck. I gotta clean this up. Come on, keep going.
So yeah, you have a question? What's the question?
Is it streaming now? Like, is it okay?
Yes, we're streaming.
Make sure it's not like last week.
Yes.
We're streaming. It's
Okay,
a scuffed stream, but it's a stream nonetheless.
Yeah. This whole Hangouts disappearing thing has been quite the fucking problem. Hangouts was perfect. Keep going.
I don't even know what people are talking about or how long. Just got
Talking
here
about
now.
this new anticipation that's being talked about. Allegedly, Vermina being the anticipation of Dagoth-Ur. Because, the Dreamer, Nightmares. which again doesn't really make a lot of sense considering that Dagothur's whole thing was that he's a Sharmat, or at least an agent of the Sharmat, and the Sharmat is believed to be Hermaeus Mora. You know, I don't know. I'm not a fan of this new revelation,
I'm not
but
a fan of it either.
No.
It's nothing confirmed. I believe you can.
I can hardly hear half of what you're saying. It keeps cutting in and out.
Yeah, Matt, you've got some connection issues. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's my internet is pretty late.
Yeah. Is that just a right now? Usually we can hear you fine.
Start the internet or something. I don't know.
Oh. Maybe if you mute or something, it'll be less of a bandwidth strain because you're not transmitting audio. And then you can type. I've got the Discord open right now, just in general. So you can type in here and we'll all be able to see it. That's up to you.
Working now?
Seems to be.
Okay.
So anyway, back to what I was saying. I mean, there has to be a presence in the Dunmerry Pantheon for there to be a fourth anticipation, right? Like, am I wrong in that, do you think?
Oh.
No.
Well, I mean, again, we don't really know, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to think of who the other prominent daedra were that I recall in Morrowind. Ones that sort of come to mind, but again, that could just be my own personal bias on it.
Yeah.
Are Clavicus Vile and Nocturnal.
No. See, and there was kind of a... I always figured it was Nocturnal that Dagothur had been the anticipatee of, and with that in mind, like, I had thought that, you know, maybe who was it we were talking about in the Lorechat? Was it Riemann? Was it the Riemann cast? We thought that maybe Riemann might have been a Sharmat based on that, like he had a raven. Yeah, thank you, Matt. Yeah, and so that was a connection that I had made, but apparently Kirkbride at one point had said that Vermina was the anticipated of Dagothur. And that was information that I got kind of secondhand not long ago. We're going to do a whole thing on it in the Telmora in coming months. It's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, Riemann has a crown of crows in the Shonietta, and he was supported by Nocturnal according to PGE 2, Pocket Guide to the Empire 2.
Heretical.
Yeah. But if it's Vermina, then it doesn't really... It kind of severs that connection. So, Hermaeus Mora is another big one because of the association with the Sharmat. I mean, if we follow, say, Luther Weiser's idea on the Sharmat, he was involved in Tamriel Rebuilt. I think he did some stuff, some writing for that, where he kind of made this a thing. I'm pretty sure it was Tamriel Rebuilt. And basically his thought is that the Sharmat, being Dagothur, is a pawn of the Sharmat in all caps, and that they are two different entities, and that the Sharmat itself is actually some trans-arbical or it exists outside the dream or outside the Arbus, and is imposing its will upon the Arbus through Dagothur or through Mirak, both of whom are Sharmat. And then there's a kind of the idea. I don't want to say I subscribe to it more, but it's almost more believable for me. The idea that the Sharma, and it says so in the sermons, that the Sharma is the pawn of the aggregate, and the aggregate, which means a composite collection of varied pieces. The aggregate is Hermes Mora, who is the leftover information, kind of the scrap heap of creation, kind of left on the cutting room floor at convention. And so, if he's the aggregate, is it a line from the New Hara? Are you sure? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Let's see.
100%.
Not that I don't believe you. Could have sworn it was the sermons. Yeah, I'm just trying to corroborate it here.
Don't remember.
Yeah. Okay, it does say, yeah. The question has been, Dagothor is mentioned by New Hada as pawn of the aggregate. I think he means that he was influenced in some way by Lorcan. The aggregate can be a designation for Talos, maybe. According to this, Game Sauce thread.
Game Sauce is a pain.
Yeah, it's huge pain. But anyway, the whole point, the aggregate is supposed to be Hermes Mora, being a composite of different pieces of creation, specifically in discarded ideas of time, and how tentacles kind of look like dragon tails, and so they're all converging in one spot. He's the aggregate, and given his connection to Mirak, it seems to make sense, because Mirak is working at the behest of Hermes Mora. And so if we apply that to Dagothor, while we never saw Hermes Mora, I don't think we saw Hermes Mora at all. I don't think he's ever mentioned in Morrowind at all. But look at the Ascended Sleepers. They look a lot like Seekers, if you ask me. What's that, Matt?
I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. And so, while they may not be exactly the same, maybe they were lent to Dagothor for a specific purpose. But, what that would imply is that the whole process of going from Sleeper to Dreamer to Ash Slave to Ash Ghoul to Ash to Ascended Sleeper, that whole thing is just a transformation from mortal to Seeker, basically, and the physical transformation, and we're seeing that in stages, which is kind of something that Silence of Autumn and I have kind of been playing around with. We're slowly, we're kind of at a standstill right now, but we're working on some Apocrypha about Apocrypha.
Nice.
So,
by the way,
yeah,
when you said tentacles kind of are like dragon tails, the first thing that popped into my mind was, ooh, Alduin Sama Yamate.
Oh.
huh?
You're welcome for that mental image, because if I have to suffer, I at least don't want to suffer alone.
No.
Yeah. So there's that. And then so that's the argument for Hermes Mora, and that was always whether he's the anticipation of Dagothor or whether he just influences Dagothor. I would say there's a distinction there.
Fair enough.
Just because Sothasil is the anticipation or is anticipated by Azura, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything he does is colored by Azura. He did the Cold Harbor Pact, for Christ's sakes. Like, dude strolled into Oblivion and basically bound like half of the princes to his will. And so, Azura was one of those, but what about all the others? We can't call him anticipated by Molag Bal just because he was in Cold Harbor. See what I'm saying? So I would say that whether Hermes Mora is, the aggregate or influencing how Dagothor works or not, that doesn't necessarily make him the anticipation of Hermes Mora. And then, Nocturnal was a big one. I'm trying to remember the actual justification behind Hermes Mora. or behind Nocturnal. Here we go. Let's see. So this is from Teslor. Oh, okay. This is Buckney Wesley Bosley. A heretical letter to House Sewell on Nerevar's shadowed anticipation.
I was reading that.
Yeah, so the title seems to suggest that Nocturnal is Nerevar's anticipation, which could be cool. And this is actually pretty long. I'm gonna put this in the chat there, just so we can all see that. Yeah, it's kind of long. I'm not gonna read the whole thing now. But based on the title, I would guess that has to do more with Nerevar than Degathur.
It does.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah, Vermina is as much as I don't like it, I liked the idea of Nocturnal being related to Degathur, personally, but
I like Nocturnal.
yeah, let's see. Yeah, the Song of Hrormir is mostly where a lot of that comes from, which I will also drop here. Oh, we don't want the mobile version. Fuck the mobile version. We on PC. There we go. So Hrormir, son of Hrorgar, summoned to the court of Viendak, son of Vienmor, king of Evensnow. Where's the bit about Nocturnal? Or, Vermina? Does it even talk about it? No. Oh, okay, here we go. Yet he knew Eversnow didst not lie. So for 20 days and 3 rodeth he to the land of night, the kingdom of fear, where the peasants ever carried candles, knowing that evil awaiteth them, should they stray beyond the glow. The sovereignty of the 3 dark kings. I don't know what this has to do with Degathur, but this is something that someone and I were talking about. I'm told that the Nocturnal is representative of the Shadow, which is a charge of the thief, representing Mephala, who is the anticipation of Vivek. I've spoken with MK about the metaphysics arrangement as part of the thing I can't really talk about quite yet. Vermina's domain is omens and nightmares, whose charges being madness, Sheogorath, entropy, Namira, and indulgence, sanguine, together representing the serpent as a whole. Also known as the aggregate. All easily identifiable with the qualities and characteristics of Degathur, who commands the sleepers and communicates with the player through nightmares. And so when put in that way, that kind of makes a little bit of sense, right? If Vermina being kind of the apex of the serpent. I don't know, that I like the idea that the 4 of them together create the serpent. Although I suppose that may be a connection to Lorcan. Because Sheogorath is Lorcan's creativity. Thoughts?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Gift of Vivek.
I love that gif. That's one of my favorite things. I like the one where it's Vivek and he's got a spear under like his loincloth. It says, "What spear?" And he goes. He moves his eyebrows around. Yeah, he's I don't know if I'd be able to find it. So there's that. I don't know. I mean, that was like 15 minutes of about 20 minutes of talk on the 4th anticipation. What else do we want to talk about?
I'm thinking of it. I'm open to practically anything.
You're cutting out a bit.
What? Can you say that again? That cut out near the end.
Well, while Matt is typing. Okay. while Matt is typing, I am drinking a lovely IPA from Whistle Punk Brewing in Spokane, Washington. I was there last night. This is a Spruce Tip IPA. I even have their glass here. You guys can't see in Discord, but here on Twitch you guys can see Whistle Punk Brewing. They brewed it with spruce tips, so it's got the kind of a botanical kind of earthy sort of flavor to it. And I really dig it. It tastes like nature. Okay, so Matt says he's open to practically any topic. Well, Patricio's here. Let's see if Patricio has anything.
Okay, so
Realize what you wanna talk about.
is there a topic anyone wants?
No, I hate when it's kind of like we're trying to figure it out as we go. Okay. Well, the other time I asked something about mysticism, but then I had to leave for a moment, so I don't know if you talked about it.
Andrew, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me at all? I don't know. It seems it shows up. Can you guys hear me?
I can't hear you through Discord. Like I can, when I open your stream, it's fine. Hang on, let me just reboot something. See if this works.
All right. Yeah, Lig. Oh man.
Okay, for whatever reason, I had to reboot the.
Did that help? Can you hear me now?
It's weird.
Is that a yes?
What?
Is that a yes? You can
Yes
hear me?
for what?
That you
Yeah,
can hear
I
me?
can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Obviously, I'm responding to you.
Okay. Well, just making sure. It could be coincidence. I don't know.
Can you hear me? Yes. Are you sure? Can you hear me?
No, one time, totally unrelated to lore at all. One time, there was this dude that I knew, and we do like group calls all the time in Skype because we were bored, and so he'd like fuck with his audio setup and go, "Can you guys hear me?" And I'd go, "No," and he'd go, "God damn it!" And he'd go back and he'd fill some shit. Okay, how about now? Can you guys hear me? No, we can't hear you. Fuck. He'd go back. What, like 5 times? It was so funny. I kept telling him we couldn't hear him until he finally caught on. It was quite nice. It was, yeah.
Shit. Someone wants to talk about Lig, but I don't.
Oh, man. I
don't know it that well. I mean, Evan's really my Lig partner.
Yeah, well, Evan and Chris Franzen, they're the main guys that deal with Lig, and it's really hard to get answers out of them, which can be really frustrating. Oh, that's thunder. There's supposed to be a storm tonight, and I'm really excited.
Hello, storm crowd, where my breath is long winter.
Well, see, it's kind of exciting because I've been reading the Stormlight archives. I'm like halfway through book 2 now. I started it like 2 weeks ago. So storms are like...
So Matt is right in that it is said that League is Masser's shadow and is supposedly, the coffee stain of on the map. It's a weird thing. I feel like, okay, the closest can kind of describe League the way it's sort of been described to me in the way I understand it. It's kind of like how you can have a dream and you know that pieces of your dream are from reality, right? It's the faces of friends or family, or it's a diner you remember, but the outside is from a completely different city. And so if you're a lucid dreamer, you realize everything is really off, but it still exists as a coherent dreamscape, if that makes any sense. I've understood what League represents in terms of the greater dream as a whole. Is this kind of where all the other pieces that we know of, but don't quite fit together, are placed familiar but wildly different. Is kind of how it's been explained to me, and how I understand it. I could be very wrong though. Like maybe Evan is lurking right now, and I'm gonna get a message in my inbox in 2 minutes saying you're a fucking idiot. That's not what League is at all. Have I taught you nothing? I'll be like, oh, sorry, Evan senpai.
Nah, but he's not lurking. He's not in the group, and he doesn't follow my page at all. So, yeah, I'm fairly certain about that. I'm pretty sure he doesn't like me at all. So there's that too. But no, Lig is so it see, it's hard to even talk about because I mean, I consider myself pretty well versed, and Lig is so beyond what I know and understand, because technically it's technically it's either a different Kalpa or a different parallel reality or a continent on the other side of Nirn. There are so many different ways to think about it. And so, I mean...
It's a magical land!
Yeah, or it's in an adjacent place. So, basically, another bubble inside the Arbus or something along those lines. Maybe connected
adjacent
to the Arbus.
Place of convenience and plot device.
Yeah. And so... It originally came from it was an out-of-game text called, what was it, on the Name of Lig, or something like that. And it's basically talking about the devs at Bethesda talking about, Tamriel, and then, like, a fire alarm goes off, and someone spilled coffee all over the map of Tamriel, and it got thrown into the trash, and they managed to save some part of it, and the coffee stain that was left behind, that becomes Lig. It's called Lig because the fire alarm went lig a lig a lig a lig a lig. And so that's where we get that. From my understanding, Lig is effectively like a bizarro world of Tamriel. So the daedra are bad guys. The daedra are good guys. Everything's kind of flipped. I think that
Elsewhere is a really cold place where sentient dog people live.
I mean, maybe not that reverse, but more thematically. So, like the Dreg are the dominant civilization in Lig.
Is it pronounced Dreg, Drew, or Dreth?
I always pronounced it Drow.
I've heard it, Drew.
I pronounced it Drow as a kid. But lately I've taken to the term Billies.
I would have to check against how it is.
That was supposed to be funny, and nobody laughed. They're called Billies.
Ha 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 ha! I call them Drew, or Dro.
Fuck you.
Drew. Drew.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It can be like Sacy or Kim, no matter what you're saying it wrong.
I remember someone tried to say they said Sacy somewhat like Tzatziki, and I said, the hell?
They pronounce it Dreg, I think, in both Oblivion and ESO. So that's just kind of what I go with. I prefer Drow because it sounds better. But
that's a fantasy race from Warhammer, or sorry, no, Warcraft.
Forgotten Realms, my guy.
Oh.
I don't know this stuff. I'm not quite that big of a
The Drow of the Underdark, whose patron goddess is Lolth, the spider god.
Hey, well, I'll take your word for it.
They are dark elves.
Yeah, they're basically dark elves, and Lolth is basically Mephala. Yeah, so I don't know how to get to Lig. Sometimes there are bleeds between Lig and Tamriel, and so things like leak through.
Right. Isn't there also some connection between the Magna Gi and Lig?
Yes,
Or
yeah.
Dagon and Lig?
Yeah, both, because Marin's Dagon is effectively kind of a Magna Gi, being Magnus himself. And so, because if you read the Magna Gi Pantheon on the Imperial Library, it makes mention of Lig. And so I don't know if the Magna Gi are more a present pantheon of deities in Lig, and when leaving the Arbus, they just ended up in this adjacent place. Or what? Like I'm so confused by Lig, and I've kind of given up figuring it out because nobody will give me a straight answer. So every time I've tried, I've been met with inside jokes and vague syllogisms. So it's unhelpful. Also, the Chrome device might be Numidium, like a
probably Mag. It's Meridia's father.
But yeah, I mean, I was told that the Chrome device is supposed to be the equivalent of Numidium. That was one direct answer I got.
That makes no sense.
Take it up with Evan Smith. I don't know. That's what he told me. I don't know how or why. I'm just told that's what it is. But yeah, the Magna Gi and Lig are fucking weird. And a lot of the time I just kind of ignore that stuff because no one can make it accessible. And so...
intentionally inaccessible.
Yeah. Which doesn't help anybody. So there's that. I mean, I'm all for making things complicated so that people search for the answers on their own. But there's a fine line between that and needlessly complicating things to where no one wants to look for the answers now because you've made it fucking impossible. And Lig is one of those things that goes on the wrong end of that line, in my opinion.
I don't know what family they're from.
Let's see. Fortunato says Lig is one of those things of the Elder Scrolls lore. They're simply there to be used by the fans in whatever form they find interesting or to make a good story. I agree with that. I mean, I would attribute that to basically everything in the Elder Scrolls lore because it's all fiction and it's all for us to consume and use as we like as consumers of fiction. And so I don't know. I mean, it's all for our enjoyment. We can twist it however we want. But yeah. So in chat, Matt was talking about Amaranth a bit. And so let me get it.
So let's go to something
a flower of bullshit.
No, see, Amaranth at least makes sense to me. That I can figure out. So a lot of people think the Amaranth works like this, and it pisses me off. So here's Michael Kirkbride's head right here, and he's thinking, and then we got this kind of chain, this Russian nesting doll. Repeat again and again and again. Amaranth, he becomes dreamer from inside the dream, like Inception. Separation from original dream and division of mind to produce a new universe. Repeat again and again and again. And in its essence, I mean, that's kind of... I mean, you want to talk about that, Felix?
Not really. No, just go on. It's fine.
Okay. I think of it in kind of a similar way. It doesn't necessarily need to be Russian nesting dolls, but the person who attains Amaranth leaves the dream. I mean, they're kind of in the dream, but they're kind of not. Like it's. What's that, Matt?
Problem I have with nesting dolls.
My voice keeps cutting out, man. I'm sorry.
Oh. Problem I have with them.
I heard something about that.
I'm going to type it.
Okay. And so the way I see it is that every time an Amaranth occurs, so if you were outside the whole thing, say you're looking at all of, you're looking at the dream from the outside in, you'd have a dream here, and then a dream over here, and maybe dreams, going in either direction for as long as there are dreams in either direction. And it's not necessarily that they're nested inside each other, it's that they're parallel to each other. One may have been created by another dream, but from the outside, that causality doesn't necessarily matter. That is why Anu, the dreamer of Tamriel's dream, he can see Akavir and Yokuda. Because they're already there. The dreams exist, but in his mind, the dreamers haven't necessarily been appropriated yet. So Jubal, for example, doesn't necessarily exist yet. That doesn't mean his dream doesn't exist. Causality doesn't really matter when you're outside the dream. You see what I'm saying? Which
is basically how Vivek gets away with being an important god and the most respected of the Ansu in Yokuda.
Yeah. Let me see what. Let's see. So Matt says the problem I have with the nesting doll interpretation is that implies that each dream is less real than the previous dream. I prefer with they being equal. To quote Kirkbride, more like slide out from the cosmos to become a new one. A splitting of hairs maybe, but the Amaranth is the hardest concept I've ever attempted, and so I'm a bit picky about it. Anyone that can make the final jump goes to sleep and dreams forever, making a new cosmos and being each new part of it, watching as those new parts wake up within him or her. They're actualizing children, some of which naturally rebel, but love begets love, which is the Amaranth. What does this hologram have that the Arbus doesn't?
Which is why I wrote that thing called the Seed Bringer.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Boom, right there. Suck it, Todd.
Slide out of the cosmos to...
Yeah, slide out of the cosmos to become a new one. Yeah, I mean, that's basically... I mean, I guess if you're... Oh, hold on. Who is...
Oh, okay, I actually can sort of explain the slide out of the cosmos thing, largely because... Well, okay, maybe. I don't know. Hopefully I explain it well. I haven't really had to explain it before, but I'll try and explain it how it got into my head. There's a really good Isaac Asimov story dealing with robots and the singularity, and it goes on to the very end of Entropy when everything sort of joins the machine is just there. And at the end of the story, after doing all the machine realizes what it has to do, and it says, "Let there be light." And so I kind of attribute the same thing to,
death,
or specifically ego death, so that when you sleep forever and you don't wake up, one final subgradient below death, that is where you also kind of the brain has this sense of trying to orient itself and stimulate itself, and so it will create its own world as a result. And if anyone here has ever watched the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion, in the original final episode, which everyone fucking hated, by the way, but in the original final episode, they do touch on this point a bit with regards to worlds and creation. They showed, just the white canvas, and the characters are talking about how, well, we need a point of reference. And then they draw a dot, and then they draw a line, and then they can orient themselves around that line and figure out what's up and down, left, right, moving, and it all sort of spills out from there. So it's kind of the same thing when you undergo, I'm assuming anyway, ego death or permanent death, and your brain says, well, I gotta create. That's where memory kicks in and why it's so important.
Yeah, it's like it takes everything that you are mentally, physically, and more mentally, in my opinion, and then reappropriates it to basically metaphorize itself. What's going on in the mind? How do we, what's the mind dealing with? I mean, if you're dealing with, say your grandpa died or something, and that's something you're kind of struggling with on a psychological level, well, then you attain Amaranth, and okay, well, you're still dealing with the fact that your grandpa died. and so that's gonna rear itself some way, shape, or form in your head. Maybe there's some deity in this metaphorical world that represents your grandfather, and this deity left and or was killed by another deity or something that represents like cancer or something. You know what I mean? So the mind starts telling stories to itself, and metaphor is one of the strongest things that the mind has for dealing with things. I mean, I've got a buddy who, for a long time, he worked with troubled kids, high risk kids in a basically an alternative school setting, but it was like an in-home sort of thing. Like they lived at the facility, and he used Dungeons and Dragons to create metaphors for their issues, so that they could handle their issues in a safe, controlled environment, and it actually helped them a lot. Using Dungeons and Dragons to kind of parse out their own problems. I
thought it was satanic and spurred people towards the devil and committing unspeakable acts of terror.
Yeah, that's no.
Here,
I know that's the Christian wine moms talking.
Oh yeah, no, that was like, what was that, like the early 80s or something, where
early 80s, early 90s maybe.
I don't know.
There was a movie in the 80s that explicitly presented D&D as making you lose touch with reality and going crazy.
It is theirs.
Like Reaper Madness.
So I want to address something here. Fortunato says Lig. Or no, not Lig. Where is it? Isn't it like mantling Anu, like existing outside of time, so all of them should exist at the same time? I wouldn't use the word mantling here. It's more like rising up alongside Anu. Because to mantle Anu would be to become Anu in every sense of the word. But Jubal is not Anu. Jubal is his own dreamer and dreams his own dream, which becomes Akavir through the Flower Child. And so they're side by side. They're at an equal level. And so any Amaranths that spring from Jubal's dream, well, they'll rise up alongside all the other dreamers too. I mean, if we think about it, in like a sideways gradient sort of thing, like it's all parallel. Let's see. What is this?
What's going on?
Oh no, not another Khajiit. I'm still smarting from the last one. Yeah, that's barbed penises. That's that's the thing. Laying it out a little thick there.
It's just a little bit. I'm gonna drink
Ha 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 ho! Hee hee hee! Ha ha ho ho! Uncle Sweet
Uncle Sweet Share. Yeah. Someone tried arguing with me the other day that Creeper is not a dev in joke because he's explained later in lore. And I went, do you understand that he was explained later in lore? Like, he can be an in-joke and then be woven into the lore at a later time. That doesn't stop it from being an in-joke when it was created. The same thing with Uncle Sweetshare. Uncle Sweetshare was supposed to be Santa Claus. If you read the Polygon article about Bethesda's 25th anniversary, one of the devs talks about how he tried to include Santa Claus in the game because he thought it would be funny.
The alpha plebe.
And
also, if we're talking about in-jokes, we have to mention Maik the liar.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
Maik and his son Maik and his son's son Maik and his son's son Maik.
God,
yeah.
I love Maik.
And of course, like that's the in-joke, right? But of course, now I've seen on Testlore and even in certain corners of Facebook and Discord where people say, so is Maik actually like a lesser daedra or something? And people start to get serious with it. I just like sort of slow clap it out and say,
Well, here's the thing. Mike, in my opinion, was absolutely included as a channel for dev in jokes. Talking about were sharks
In the making.
and nudity and dragons and Morrowind. I mean, those were like that, just kind of things that they riff off of each other. But then as the series continued, there's certain things that Mike says that, you put them together and you go, What's that, Matt?
There's also like shows up in cardboard for no reason. It's totally fine.
He shows up in the artwork for what?
Well, he shows up in cardboard.
Oh, in Cold Harbor. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Mike shows up in Cold Harbor.
Yeah, you can find him there. You can find him, I think, in every vanilla region of ESO. You can find him.
Every chapter region too.
In every which region?
Chapter.
Oh. So okay. So all the major DLCs, the X packs. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I don't think
I had some very interesting.
I want to play ESO so bad.
You should. But I
have money.
I've come to the conclusion. I don't know if the sale's still going, but Steam has ESO for like $10.
Hey, what?
Yeah. I bought it for my wife so she could play with me.
Yeah, but like a house in ESO is like $70.
Where's Steam? Let me open Steam.
I've got
houses are expensive.
I've got a couple houses actually.
Oh, look at you unrepentant capitalist.
But I am fully under the impression that Mike is an aspect of Lorechat.
I agree.
Condemned,
heavily tainted with Sheo.
Condemned to walk Nern for many phases. That's, I mean, whether he started that way, I think he became that.
Another example of an in-joke that grew in.
Yeah, exactly.
Mudcrab merchant.
Yeah. Mudcrab merchant. Yeah, because that's what we were talking about in Tesla. Yeah, people are like, "Oh, it's a daedra." Clearly, I'm like,
how do you know it's not just
Andrew?
daedra?
Yes.
It says the Elder Scrolls Online is not on sale. It's just $25 Canadian.
Oh, well then you missed the sale, scrub.
RIP me. And then the Elder Scrolls Online elsewhere location download $55.
Yeah,
because it's brand new.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to see elsewhere, but not like that.
Elsewhere is pretty cool. I mean, I already 100%.
I got it. It was alright.
Yeah, let's see. And elsewhere, Mike talks about how he often dreams and has trouble figuring out when he's dreaming and when he's awake. The Mudcrab Merchant shows up in the Shivering Isles storyline for Legends. He's an actual character, and then the main character is like, what the fuck? Yeah, I mean, the Mudcrab Merchant was first included as a dev in-joke, and maybe he's a daedra now in the shape of a mudcrab? I mean, these things can change. Like Scourge. Scourge, for example, is a good example of an in-joke. Because Scourge was a test character, and they used him to test how many ways you could die in Morrowind. And if you go and if you go to the Lizard's Head pub in Vivek and you go down to the basement, you can find an Argonian head on a plaque. It says Head of Scourge. That's an actual thing that you can find. Like that is an Easter egg. There's also you can find the banhammer. You can find the banhammer because in the Bethsoft forums, when people were naughty, they'd get hit with the banhammer. What's another one? Oh, the fat loot in Morrowind.
Oh, I remember that.
I'm mostly just naming Morrowind Easter eggs because I found them all. The fat loot is a reference to like Diablo 3 or Diablo 2, where you'd like get good stuff. It's fat loot that you'd get. There's Lord Clutter Monkey. In the Clutter Warehouse, everything must go. It's a hidden cell you can only get to through console commands. And then there's... What else is there? I mean, if you get into like the files and stuff, there's the critical damage audio file that was never used. And there's also a little bit of... it goes critical damage. So it's like a robot voice, and so I think they were just
Very
fucking.
well performed.
Yeah, it's like in the game files, and then there's the Jetsons theme in there for some reason. But it's just a little chime. It goes bing, 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 bing.
Wait, no, hang on. wait, no, hang on. Meet Lord Vivek.
Da-da-da-da.
Bye.
Well, let's see if I can find it, because I've got. I know I can.
Dwemer
Let's see. No, I'm gonna do it over here. Let's see. Program files. This Softworks, Morrowind, data files. We want sound. We want FX. I think we want. It might be in here. One called Funny. Let's see. Is it? Got play?
Critical damage.
Okay, so that's critical damage. Gary head hit. Okay, so that's a little bonk. Where's the one that's the Jetsons?
You better find it soon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you
I'm
guys can hear
starting
it, but
to doubt your validity.
I know it's in here. Maybe it's the it might be the destruction spell. Come to think of it.
The destruction spell is a Jetson song.
Yeah, old. Here we go. We're going to old. Let's see.
Hey, now it's sound effects.
No, that's
The
not
little
it.
green guy from the Floodstone shows up.
There it is. I found it. Let's see. Can I turn off the repeat? Here we go. Let's see if I don't know if I can make it so you guys can hear it without hurting the
If
stream
you can
here.
post an MP3 of the file.
Oh yeah.
we can-
Well, it's a .wav. Let's see
Wow.
Oh god, haven't seen
Oh.
those in years.
that one. There we go. It's destruction cast. Did I listen to that?
I couldn't hear it.
Oh god, that's hilarious.
Give me a second.
Yeah. It's the Jetsons, and there's a few different versions of that depending on which like spell type you're going at. There are some that are slower, some that are faster. Let's see. So Matt posted a link to Mike the Liar on UESP. He said there's
the one post by Matt there earlier about the giant sending you to space was a bug that was left in because it was funny. Damn right, they knew it was going to be meme worthy and they left it in.
yeah,
Like
that they must have.
Make it a
'cause
cultural
that's-
icon and a household name. Fuck yeah, boys.
And
Yeah.
it became an actual can do.
Yeah, it basically got adopted into lore because I actively resist that one because that's so blatantly a bug. You can't just you can't just
I love
you
the
can't
one where
just
it says,
call
"Come
it
on
lore."
down to Skyrim. We got racists. We got space programs." Like
Yeah,
it was just so dumb and great.
yeah. Let's see. You've heard of the Khajiit. The Khajiit love naps, yes. So does Mike, though maybe Mike is napping now, and this conversation is but a dream.
Oh, that's fucking with my head.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I mean, maybe if he is an aspect of Lorechat, then is that referencing the idea that Lorechat / Lorcan / Shore / Shazar are a part of the Dreamer and they are aware of the fact that they're part of Anu? I don't know.
Well, wait, isn't that actually just completely obvious? Because isn't part of Lorcan's thing in like the monomyth or something that he actually sees the wheel for what it is, the letter I, and realizes his part within
Yeah.
the dream? Like,
Yeah, he
just answer the question right there. That Lorcan realizes, oh shit, I'm a hallucination, but I still exist.
Yeah, well, I mean, he still failed at Kim so that he could show others how not to fail.
Exactly. He was like, use my corpse as the guiding way.
Screw your corpse.
Yeah.
Follow the dead body road. Follow
Yeah,
the
let's
dead
see,
body road.
In Crowswood, a flute can be found among offerings to the Blackfeather Court. When activated, its inscription reads, "A gift from Mike to his son, Mike. Shore, son of Shore. That's, yeah. I wonder what the inspiration was for Mike the Liar. Like, there's probably some dude named Mike, like Michael. I wonder if it's MK. Is Mike the Liar MK?
It might be. That's always what I thought.
And then he's the liar because he's... I should ask him about that.
He keeps spewing random...
MK just does a line of coke off his computer desk. Okay, so, like, there's a bunch of gears inside the planet, okay?
Well, he may be Tiber Septim, but why can't he be multiple people? If you ever read the Transubstantiation of Anu, then, I mean, both Mac and I, we kind of talk about how someone can be multiple self-inserts at one time, namely Vivek and Talos, how they're both self-inserts for the character Anu.
They're both dritzed.
One of which is Anu as she believes she's supposed to be, because she's like she's a trans woman, and so she believes she's supposed to be male because she was born male, and so.
I remember when people got so mad over that. I'm thinking this is literally a hypothetical of a metal video game. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, no, it was just us looking at the lore through, basically a literary lens. Like, how can we misinterpret this? And I don't know. I mean, I still don't know that I
misinterpret this.
What's that?
How dare you deviate from the norm?
Yeah.
How dare you deviate
no,
from the norm of English?
And some people were like, oh, this seems forced. And I was like, well, yeah. I mean, we're looking at it through a specific lens. We're trying to find things that fit this idea and roll with it. I mean, that's the whole thing we're doing. We don't necessarily think that Anu is a transgender woman trying to accept herself. Although it's kind of an interesting path to take.
Yeah, it's just a, hey, what if, or let's think about this for a second.
Yeah. But no, I'd like to, if I ever get the chance to interview MK, he's resisted my charms this far. And he hasn't gotten back to me about a proper interview yet. But when I do finally interview him, whenever that is, I'm going to ask him about Mike the Liar and say, are you Mike the Liar? And I'll see what he says.
He'll say no.
What are their in-jokes?
But to be fair, if he is Mike the Liar, he's probably going to say no anyway.
I mean, probably. That would mean any denial.
Would you be lying?
Any denial he could take, I could be like, you're lying, I see.
By the way, if you ever do hear back from MK, because I'm pretty sure I'm like the only person in the lore community who doesn't have him as a friend on Facebook.
I don't.
But if you do hear from him, can you also ask him on my behalf if Tall Papa is Trinimac or not?
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, I'm on. If clones upon clones equals a family.
Shut up.
I mean, Dive Fear already answered that, and it's a very creepy yes.
Yeah. And then I'm also waiting for Schick to return some answers to me, because I sent him like almost 30 questions, 30 interview questions, and I haven't heard back. I mean, it's been about a month and a half, so maybe I'll bug him here pretty soon and be like, hey, what's up? I see robots down in the chat. What's going on, man?
Robots, more like robots. Am I right?
No. So robots runs the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. It's in the Robots podcast network. It's good stuff. I try to listen to it when I can. Robots. So we're talking about dev in jokes. We're almost an hour in. What else do we want to talk about? Maybe since Robots is here. Hey Robots, what do you want to talk about? Give us a topic. What would you like to hear about or discuss or be a part of? You're a newcomer here, so you get to set the topic. As we do. And you're more than welcome to jump in too. I don't know if I don't think you're in my Discord server, but you're more than welcome. In fact, let me see if I can shoot you an invite here. So there you are. I invite to server? Boom. There we go.
I like that. Sylvanar is a person, a place, and a concept. Make wonders. How can one thing be three things? Boy, have Tiber, Zurin, and Wolfhearth got a fucking story to tell that cat.
Yeah. Well, plus, yeah. Mike's a whole bag of cat.
I know. But again, the concept of the enantiomorph is also just kind of wild, and when you realize the numerology of it, and also when you see how many other enantiomorphs there are, it's kind of like this is just weirdly important.
Matt dropped a lore bomb. You walk the path in strange times, my kin. Look to the old teachings and the spirits of our ancestors. Azura, Boethra, and Mafala will teach you. Learn from them and keep the faith. Now go. Strong will, Khajiit. So that implies that the Khajiit worship the three daedra, which I know, or the three good daedra, which I know Azura is a common theme between the Khajiit and the Dunmer.
They absolutely adore Azura. She's arguably the most important.
Okay.
No.
So, question.
And mother goddess.
I have a question.
Okay. What do you got, Charlie?
How old is that ghost?
That's a good question. Well, let's see, because that was what... yeah, what quest is this? That's got to be... That looks like Cold Harbor?
Just typed it. Hold on. Wait up. He's from...
So, why is that cat wearing samurai armor? I thought that was exclusively reserved for the Akaviri.
Probably
from the temple of... Who was friends with Arun Kal.
Ah. Is this from elsewhere? Because that could be like medium Palatine armor.
That's elsewhere.
Okay. Because it almost
Right,
almost looked like it was from Cold Harbor.
So I didn't hear an answer. How old is that Khajiit? What era is it from?
At least first era.
Alright. So I have a statement to bring up then. If it's from at least the first era, then I feel Khajiiti religious practices may have changed. Because if he's purely from the first era, there is a decent chance that he was alive before the first main ever existed.
Oh, maybe.
Ooh, that's a spicy proposition.
Life
Yeah.
before the man.
Yeah,
Let's see,
that's
'cause
good
it was,
stuff. Oh crap! I forgot to write down the title.
Jinanjiri was the first main, born or deemed to rule First Era 2902. And let's not forget, the First Era ends in 2920, so he was 18 when the world when that era ended.
Yeah. So pretty old, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. Dr. Rohaki says that the Khajiit worship everyone. It's so nice. Their concepts of good and bad daedra aren't really a thing. Everyone's simply a cat in the sky. There's someone I want to say in Elsewhere who talks about, is it Elsewhere or maybe it's pre-Elsewhere, where they talk about how the Khajiit worship almost every god, or at least pretend to, because it's funny. And so basically they just,
you know what would be a really good joke?
they're just fucking around. Like, they don't necessarily worship, they might pretend for appearances. But okay, so Robots has a question for us. And that should be 52. There we go. We're at 103. Okay. So Robots asks, we generally understand why the daedra like messing around with mortals, but what's the value of collecting their souls? What do you got?
It makes them stronger.
Okay, makes them stronger.
Obviously.
By absorbing the soul stuff and making yourself stronger, you increase your own will, which in turn increases your property value in Oblivion.
Okay. Felix, what do you think? Felix, stop being muted. You butthole. Fine, I'll do it.
Because, like, okay, I have to mute because there's stuff going on in the background. So, you know, I'm trying to be considerate for everyone. But if you want my answer, it's money, 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 money. Voice money. So there.
Okay, so here's my thought. If we think about the structure of a soul, right? We've got the AE, which is effectively the serial number. It is the main identifier of the soul's identity. Not necessarily the person's identity, just the soul's identity. So maybe like a protonymic, something along those lines. You've got the memory. These are the bits and pieces, when combined with the AE, that form the individual. Their thoughts and their feelings and their opinions. And then you've got the animus, which is the animating force. It is what allows Dwemer, the Dwemer machines to continue working. It's what you use to enchant your weapons and armor with. And so is the animus that the princes are actually after, which, as Robots pointed out, so the souls are like batteries of energy. Yes, the animus is effectively like the energy part of the battery. And so what the daedra are doing, they are energy magnates. That's what they are. They are gathering their energy, and they're using that for some purpose, maybe to increase their own power and kind of their weight in the Arbus. Maybe they're using it to construct siege machines, like we see in Oblivion. We've got kind of the giant metal crawly thingy at the end of Oblivion, the one that decimated Kvatch.
I have an idea.
Yeah, hit me.
We're all saving up money to buy spots on Tuwaka's boat so he can ferry them to the far shores.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
Okay. I'm nodding. You can't see me, but I'm nodding passively.
Okay, wait. That
yeah.
makes me realize.
I can see you. I have the stream open.
Oh, you have the stream up? Oh, okay. Well, there's that.
So let's assume for a moment that if we take the idea that the AE is basically just the charge of a battery.
Mm-hmm.
Now expand that to consider that different people may have different charges to their AE.
Sure.
Positively or negatively charged, or in this case, daedrically or daedrically charged.
Yeah.
So consider that's why the more malicious Daedric princes, or at least the more malicious plans of Daedric princes, are often going towards innocent people who, by and large, in Tamriel, are usually Daedrically charged.
I don't know.
Worshipping the divines.
Yeah, I mean, I figured that could.
That's why they don't just, kill their cultists immediately.
Sure.
Because the cultists are already aligned to them, and they need an opposite charge to gain more power.
Well, I mean, I kind of think of that as a quantity over quality kind of situation. The size of the soul doesn't really matter. It's the amount of souls we're acquiring, because overall, no matter, if we gather, 10,000 souls, well, that brings my stonks up, buddy. Stonks. Yeah. And so Robots ask, so the energy powering a soul comes from Aetherius, right? I would imagine, that's as good a guess as anyone else is going to have, I think. We know that magic comes from Magnus. The sun flows from Aetherius through Magnus to Mundus. And the Animus and Magicka are really intricately tied. If we look at the events in Clockwork City, where Deveth Fear effectively loses his Animus, his shadow. The shadow is a part of the Animus. Now, I don't think that the soul has really clean cutoffs. There aren't necessarily really clean partitions between these parts of the soul. And they kind of bleed into each other, and they affect each other in different ways.
And that's why removing one part can remove everything.
Yeah.
Or can affect everything.
I mean, the memory may imprint itself upon the Animus, like we see with Potema, for example. She's got a ring that was enchanted with the soul of a werewolf. That werewolf soul, at least part of the memory of that werewolf, the essence of the being of that werewolf, kind of infected Potema and made her ruthless and not to mention the symbolism between a wolf and motherhood, as we see with Mara. Yeah, so I would say it comes from Aetherius. And I mean, the way that it transfers from Aetherius to a new person, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it has something to do with the birth of that person, because Mom is taking in sunlight, taking in magicka, using that and channeling that into the unborn, and then the water of the womb brings with it racial memory, and that's why a person generally looks like the mother, takes on the racial characteristics of the mother. Because
speaking of that,
have we just proven racial phylogeny to be partially correct?
Well, I mean, it was we already knew it was partially correct. Go ahead, Matt.
I mean, yeah, kinda.
that reminds me of some. Let me just check.
Okay, I'm going to refill my glass here. Hopefully, this won't spill on me again. They fill these things so full. I should have just drank from it for a little bit. This is only like a. This is only,
the most value.
Yeah, no, this is only like a 5.9%. So it's not massive. It's nice, that spruce tip, just mwah.
So, is the effects word for mother?
A little bit too much. Why don't you marry?
So what's that, Matt? So what is the Elnifex word for mother? Alma. Yeah, which is also, oddly enough, Spanish for hope.
Let it in a lot of languages.
Yeah. And so Alma Alexia. Yeah. Oh, Alma, given name. Is an English feminine given name, but has historically been used in the masculine form as well, sometimes in the form Almo. The origin of the name is debated, and it was reserved as a title for classical goddesses, as in the use alma mater. Interesting.
Open.
So I'll guarantee that is an Almalexia thing. That's part of her.
Alma means spirit in Italian, Portuguese, Spanish.
Oh, lots of that means spirit. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, motherhood has a lot of connotations. Definitely in real life and in the Elder Scrolls. I mean, life imitates art, does it not? So going back to what Robots is asking. Let's see. And the light magic power from the sun pours down the Munds through oblivion. Yeah. So maybe the daedra can't collect this energy directly. It has to be processed into a soul first so they can collect it. That, as far as I've seen, that's kind of the common consensus. I mean, it's not necessarily clear whether they can see Magnus from their respective realms.
Alma comes from anima.
What's that?
For Alma.
See, Fortunato says, I just remembered something I wanted to ask someone more expert in the leg lore than me. Leg, it hurts my butthole. Right in the sphincter. So I'll try and get to that. But I want to see if what Matt says. You kept cutting out. I feel like we need background music or something. It gets really quiet sometimes. Just dead air.
We do need background music. I'm surprised we haven't discussed this before.
Just fucking Darude Sandstorm.
Oh.
No.
Right, speaking, could we just
have Nerevar Rising on infinite repeat?
Alma.
Put the Oblivion OST on.
So Alma comes from Latin for anima.
Where does the L come in?
That's interesting.
L comes before N.
I can give you the answer.
Yeah, this is why it means soul in so many languages. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Speakers are stupid.
So what's the difference between Creatia and the AE, Power of Souls? So the Creatia, I would imagine that's effectively the Animus. That's what that is. That's the chaotic Creatia. That's why. So we've got, if we look at let's say Cold Harbor, for example, we've got the Azurplasm. That is pure chaotic creation, and the daedra can reform themselves from that chaotic creation. We don't know really how long it takes, but we do know that killing a daedra, say we kill a scamp, for example, and he's bound to Cold Harbor, his soul's going to go flying back to Cold Harbor, and he's going to reform himself from the literal protean ooze, the primordial ooze of Cold Harbor, and he's going to come back as a scamp. Same dude, same memories, same AE, everything. Just his animus has been displaced, and maybe he collected a new one or something. So the AE, I usually think about it in terms of like a computer. I guess like a computer's motherboard. Your motherboard in your computer has a serial number. Now you can take out this motherboard, you can put it in another computer if you like. Still the same motherboard, it may be a different computer. Maybe it's got a different purpose, maybe it has different capabilities, maybe you upgraded the RAM and it's got a new processor in it, whatever. But the motherboard is still that motherboard, and you can identify the computer based on the motherboard, right? So that is effectively how I see the AE, and I mean I'm
the universe's motherboard.
Kind of, yeah. So I mean, if you were to look at all the souls ever, and assume that everyone's reincarnating in some manner or another, because I mean this is Gnostic and Buddhist and Hindu. There's a lot of that crammed into tests, which is part of what makes it so interesting. I mean, Buddhists believe we're kind of on this ride of reincarnation, and life is...
You are Buddha.
Yeah, life is pain, so we have to achieve nirvana so we can escape it. So that we're no longer bound to this wheel of life, rebirth,
and death. You will only be bound to Buddha.
Yeah. And so the AE would be, if you were to look at the entirety of Tess and all the souls in it, you could say, okay, there's that soul over there. That guy was, a previous life, he was this and that and the other thing. And then this dude over here was this, that, and something else. And so it's all basically reusing the same parts, but you're getting different people out of it. And I always kind of turn to Mormon theology a little bit. I had a friend in high school who was Mormon, and she explained it to me like there are a limited number of souls in the universe. And to experience mortality and life, they come down to Earth and are born as people, and then once they've experienced their life, then they vamoose and go to their fucking planet or whatever. Let's see, right, this makes sense in context of Daedric Princes and the Realms. I remembered this quote from the Numantia Intercept. The Daedric Realms were formed on much the same principle, Ptolemaic powers using ethereal refuse to build their void territories. Yeah, absolutely. And if we build off of what Robots was suggesting a minute ago, that the princes don't necessarily have access to the creation, the animus, the magica that's coming from Magnus. They have to get the leftovers after Mundus has its way with it, right? They collect the souls after these people have died. The ethereal refuse. That makes perfect sense to me. What are you doing, Matt? It should be an emote in our Discord. Not gonna lie. You know what? I'm gonna download it right now. Hold on. Can I? Let's see. Open link. Yep. Let's bring it over here. I'm gonna save image as. No. It's gonna happen right now, and you're gonna love it.
I am gonna love it.
Did that, and then I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna go. Let's see. Server settings. Emoji. I'm gonna upload an emoji. And then, let's see, where the fuck did I save that to? Pictures, 1486, where are you? I got a lot of shit.
While we're in this moment,
I don't even
talking about lore,
no.
I would like to bring up Dan.
Oh, it's in my documents.
Me the other day, because I told him
there you are.
The Archmage robes in Skyrim are just master robes with a
Okay.
nice cape.
Let's see, is this gonna be...
So he informed me that it is truly just the Archmage's poncho.
Okay, so here's how we did this. Bosmer Think. Bam! I did it! Okay. So there's that. That was fun.
I hate that image. I fucking hate
What,
that
the
image.
Will Smith is Vivek?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Why?
Look at that.
It's great.
Okay. So what else we got? Let's see. We're at an hour 20.
Already.
What? You what, mate? Sorry, I was talking over you. Maybe I could use that fanfic regarding the League version of Bosmer for actual worthwhile shit to say. Okay. See, that's like my entire life, trying to find actual worthwhile shit to say. Yeah, the Ruddy Man.
The dreg of Lig did not look like dreg. Instead, they were marish crabs.
Maybe that's what the insect people, like the Prophet of Landfall, is. He's a dreg from Lig. Yeah, robots, hit me. Yeah.
And the dreg from Lig.
We got time. Robots got another one. I'm eager to see it.
Yes, Matt. In this context, it is quite literally
Altmer of the Sea. That's Marimer, kid.
That is a saying that Vivek.
Altmer Desi. Do.
So
Yeah.
there is indeed a theory that the dreg from Lig became the Altmer, and the dreg we see now are basically just a memory of what that was.
Yeah. See, like.
Therefore, I will assert that land dreg.
Oh shit! Is Lig Aldmeris? Okay, so. So robots asked, just talk Sheogorath, Jiggalag, etc. So the end of 4th era, the hero of Kvatch breaks the Grey March, becomes Sheogorath. So in Skyrim, when you meet Sheogorath, you're also meeting the hero of the previous game. I have.
Strictly speaking, the dialogue in Skyrim implies that could be the case.
It could be.
Because he's talking about.
It could be, but it's not confirmed either. They leave it vague, as Bethesda always does.
I have some very vocal and controversial opinions on this, and people fight me on it every time.
There's a lot of people fight you, my guy.
People fight. Yeah, they go, "Oh, moderator, I'm gonna kick his ass." That's just what happens. So
comes with the white guard.
Yeah. Maybe I just have to assume that when they see the white guar, they assume it has something to do, I have to assume that they assume it has something to do with white supremacy, and them beating me up is them being a good person.
That's a stretch, but
for the record, the white guar does not condone white supremacy. That's
good.
Just, for the record, I'm as left-leaning as it gets. So, I don't believe that the hero of Kvatch actually becomes Sheogorath at a 1-to-1 ratio. People talk about him mantling Sheogorath and that the Grey March is broken.
Well, if he was a 1-to-1 ratio, he'd have no followers.
I mean, I guess. But my whole thing is that the relationship between Jiggalag and Sheogorath, they are inextricable. As much as you might end the Grey March, the ending of the Grey March is just another part of the Grey March. There's nothing you can do to end it. It's just a part of Sheogorath's madness, specifically multiple personality disorder. And
the Grey March stuff is...
and so Jiggalag himself is a manifestation of OCD.
Yeah.
He has to have
Just
everything in order.
Says he's free does not mean he's free.
I mean, and being free doesn't necessarily mean you're free permanently. Notice how we don't see Jiggalag in Skyrim at all. If he were free...
Jiggalag may not actually care about Tamriel
True, and this is another argument I have, that there could be infinite Daedric princes out there, but I always argue that because we don't know about them, they cannot be princes, because princes are a thing that we ascribe to them.
That's fair.
Yeah, so I mean, there may be entities similar to princes at a similar kind of power level, as much as power levels
Equally
are a
as
thing.
powerful.
Not if they're not princes.
Yeah, and I mean, plus we've got demi princes and we've got daedra lords, I mean, all kinds of things. I mean, that's fine, but there are only 16 princes, as far as I'm concerned. Jigalag is just a part of Sheogorath, and so when the hero of Khajiit ends the Grey March, what he's actually doing is he's keeping the seat warm for Sheogorath. He's keeping the throne of Magnus warm with his supple little butt cheeks, and
Throne of Magnus? What the fuck?
while
He said Throne of Madness.
no, Throne of Madness, not Magnus.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say,
Chill.
wait a second.
Chill,
Some
my
serious
guy.
shit must have happened.
No, and so now Sheogorath / Jigalag is off in the cosmos organizing his fucking Pokemon cards. Like that's just what he's doing for.
Now see, isn't it gonna suck if Test 6 comes out and there's a separate Jigalag quest where it becomes blatantly obvious that they are indeed now two people now?
I don't know that would necessarily prove anything, because that could just be two Sheogorath quests. It's Sheogorath, for fuck's sake. The dude is a Prince of Madness.
He's go up at the same time.
Yeah.
You're still gonna be making the argument that they're the same person.
Oh yeah, no, I will die on this rock.
The writers could explicitly say in an interview that they are separate entities now, and you're not gonna believe them.
No, I
It's just
no.
Sheogorath.
Death of the author, motherfucker. So
MK could say they're separate people.
I will fight MK.
Good luck.
And he'll
Oh
probably
my God.
he'll probably
Wait,
win.
who said what about MK?
Oh, I said I would fight MK.
I said
If
I said even if MK said that they were now separate people, Andrew would still not agree
yeah.
with it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, because there are things I disagree with that MK has said. I just don't like them. They don't make sense to me. And so anyway, Hero of Khajiit sits on the throne. Whenever Jigalag / Sheogorath comes back, he kind of eats the Hero of Khajiit. I mean, not like, oh, get in my belly, but like absorbs him. Because if we look at the Lore Master's archive, that was an interview with Haskell. Haskell talks about how he also mantled Sheogorath in an event in a previous time, and that he's still here as Haskell. If he is still Haskell, how could he have possibly mantled Sheogorath? He would be Sheogorath, and there would be no Haskell. It just doesn't make sense. So if we apply the same thing to the Hero of Khajiit, then the Hero of Khajiit will become another member in Sheogorath's court, be it a Chamberlain, be it, a stable boy, for fuck's sake. I don't know. But he's still going to be a part of Sheogorath's multiple personalities that Sheogorath had absorbed the Hero of Khajiit. But, as with all things, specifically concerning the player character, what happens to your player character is entirely up to you. And this is something that I will die defending. There is no canon end for the Nerevarine, for the Hero of Khajiit, for the Last Dragonborn. It is what you make it to be, because that is what Bethesda intended. We don't know the race, we don't know the class, we don't know the skills, we don't know anything about prisoners.
It's gonna be, definitive thing for the Devil Born and Reverend, Joe the Mongol dog from Marwood and
Manu, please. Something I wanted to bring up is that I'm fairly certain that, strictly speaking, every player character, every great hero that you create, technically does have a definitive end for a very explicit purpose of writing that character out of the story so that you can't just have them show up again to save the day.
It's more that they fade into obscurity. It's not that they have a specific ending. It's they wander off into the sunset and the credits fucking roll. Like that's
the ending for the Nerevarine is effectively the Nerevarine sailed off to Akavir and he was never seen again.
Yeah, which in and of itself is a rumor. We only hear that from Joe Schmo in Oblivion.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what gives people a lot of leeway to just write the Nerevarine into wherever else they want, so long as they do it well.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the case of Oblivion, champion of Cyrodiil, he becomes part of Sheogorath. That's how he gets written out of the story.
Oh,
because
it's not so
now
much that he
he's
becomes
not-
a part of Sheogorath, he mantles him.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Mantle's absorbed into fucking does a cartwheel and eats some cheese, whatever, what have you. The whole major point there is mostly that it's to mostly just get that character to not be the prisoner anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's to set it up so that that character is now officially part of the world rather than what the world is turning upon.
Yeah. So Robot says, or Jiggalag was so powerful and annoyingly organized that the other Daedric princes messed him up good. What if he becomes the big bad threatening all of everything with too much order? I mean, that's certainly a thing. I mean,
that sounds like Anu's wet dream or Akatosh's wet dream.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I will say false on that completely. And I have a reason.
Why is that, Matt? Go ahead. Or Matt, you're not Matt, you're Charlie.
Hold on.
Yeah, Charlie.
Hold on.
Oh, AC.
There we go. So my great argument against that is that Jiggalag is the wrong kind of stasis. Jiggalag is stasis at a state in which everything fully stops. It just stops moving. It's effectively the absolute zero of stasis. So, strictly speaking, he is the purest form of stasis. However, I do not believe that is what Anu's stasis is. Andrew, as you have brought up in the past, the concept of the non-linear time and the time when it was Anu's stasis, even that was not still.
Mm-hmm.
It was what you called static chaos.
So what you're talking about the difference between Aldmeris and Atmora.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, in this context, Jiggalag represents Atmora.
Yeah, there you go.
Because he is representing a stasis through the lens of nothing is changing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, through my eyes, through my Marish eyes, the way I see Anu's stasis is, yeah, it's a stasis in the sense that everything is constantly changing. But because everything is constant, it is stasis.
I can get behind that. And I like the idea of associating Jiggalag with Dawn. That's something that has never really occurred to me before.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Jiggalag was the precursor to Sheogorath before he got cursed.
Yeah, well, was he cursed, or did he, according to the truth and sequence...
The other Daedric princes fucked him over.
That's one telling of it. There's another telling that according to the truth and sequence, that Jiggalag learned of his nature and went mad in the knowing. Specifically, that he realized that there was no way to organize all this chaos. I understand that as an agent of chaos at Daedra, I am perpetuating the chaos, but my whole point is order. So...
Oh god, in that case, yeah, Sheogorath did not exist until the Merethic era.
I mean, maybe.
All right, hang on.
I have a reason. I have a reason for why I say that.
Well,
strictly speaking, Jiggalag would never be a Daedric prince until time became linear.
I mean, if we take the if we take the annotated Anuad, the Daedra are the blood of Padome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Padome,
but they would not strictly
change.
be Daedra until mortals existed and could apply those definitions.
Okay, so it's a categorical difference you're making.
Yeah, it's a categorical difference that did not exist until someone was there to make that exist.
Yeah.
And Jiggalag, who represents pure, unadulterated, unfiltered stasis, suddenly being put into a category where he is an agent of chaos, suddenly that would totally just break his mind.
Sure.
Because he would just question how.
Hey, Felix, what's up?
No, I need to get Yokudan for a second here.
Okay.
Oh,
Get Yokudan. Do it.
Okay. So here's the thing. I totally see where you're coming from with the whole how you're defining the clear separation or delineation between the two different types.
Oh, well, strictly
However,
speaking.
at the same time,
Sorry.
there is something in the Yokudan monomyth, part of the monomyth, Sata called the World Skin, that says there was basically just Satak, the serpent who came before, and all the worlds to come rested in the glimmer of its scales. But none of the worlds had room to move or even be. So it is, at least, again, this could be a perspective thing, which I totally get. The different cultures have different perspectives on, Lorcan, Anu, Padme. So I'm not saying that, I'm right and you're wrong, or that I'm wrong and you're right, because it could be a perspective thing. But at least according to what the Red Guard / Yokudans know and believe, is that there was absolutely a kind of dead, full stop, no moving, oh god, what the fuck is this? And so they called out for something to help them. But since Satak was everything, help had to come from within. And this was the hunger, which is Akel, which is basically, I still get some flack for saying this, but it's not Lorcan, it's Akka. It's the Akka shard. It's time. That's what starts it and finally kicks it off. So this is before Jiggalag and everything, and there's at least that perspective of, no, this is absolute bullshit, like no room to move or even be. It is just utter stasis. Not a kind of chaotic, ever fluid kind of thing, the way the Altmer talk about Aldmeris, and before that, it's not like that. It's very much a, oh god, we can't move. This fucking sucks.
Hey, Felix.
What I wanted to say, to bring that into the conversation for other people to hear and to evaluate.
That is very nice. I have a response to it, though.
All right.
If we assume, if we take the method of every culture either represents some part of Anu or some fear of Anu, and that the Yokudans were indeed the people were indeed Anu's people. Those were the people from Anu when Anu was awake. Then, strictly speaking, that could actually just be a one-for-one the story Anu grew up hearing, which means that it could be completely false in the dream because the Yokudans came from outside the dream.
Well, then we get into a completely different aspect about whether that's a different dream or a previous Kalpa, and that's where, ooh, baby.
I usually just say different dream.
And it gets spicy.
I usually like the idea of it being a different
dream. I wanted to throw one more hat in the ring regarding Jiggalag. And that's something that Fa Nuiten says in another Lore Master's archive, and I think it's also Lawrence Schick. He says something about how the princes can deviate from their spheres, but when they do, bad things happen. And he doesn't say this outright, but he implies. And he implies he's talking about Jiggalag. He refers to Jiggalag as you-know-who. And let's see if I can find it here. Lore Masters Archive, Fa Nuiten.
Sure that's Jiggalag and not maybe like Marin's Dagon or even Molag Bal?
I was gonna say, as Andrew is looking up the line in particular, it also reminded me, the categorization between Aedra and daedra, technically speaking, not all daedra are padomaic. Because I could fully stand behind the idea that Jiggalag was Anuic, but because he did not take part in the creation of the world, he is labeled as a daedra, and therefore he must be padomaic. And that's what can break him.
What's the word that you used?
Yeah, Meridia is another example. Meridia was very likely not padomaic. Because, she was Merit Nunda. She was a Magna G. If anything, she was completely neutral.
It must not have been a lore master's
And
archive.
see, in true Elder Scrolls fashion, this is part of what's really fucking annoying. There's a lot of gray area.
Yeah, and that's what makes
As Andrew has said before, it's called the gray maybe for
There's a lot of
fucking
lore.
reason.
It's what makes it perfect, and it's also what pisses off a lot of my friends.
Well, here we go.
There's
Okay,
a lot of fucking lore.
let's see.
True
So,
enough.
so here's the bit I was looking for. It says, "Hello, can you hear me? Yes, good. That scroll cost me far too much to fail. I'll have to recommend that enchanter to my colleagues, or at least the ones with enough funds to throw around. In any case, on to my query. If you would indulge me, in all my research on the various planes of Oblivion, I have come across no clarification on one particular matter of Daedric politics. What is it that makes a prince a prince? Lord Farnuten is, of course, a demi-prince by virtue and parentage, so I would have it from the recorded correspondence with Amaranth, and there are literally innumerable Daedric lords, but what sets a prince apart from the rest? Is it something inherent to their nature, or is it more of a station occupied? There are camps among my colleagues which insist that princes are designated in both number and nature in relation to the wheel structure of Mundus, but this strikes me as preposterous given the usual, and perhaps deserved, Daedric disdain for our affairs. I hope you will find it in you to shed some light on this matter for a curious mortal." Fanuiten says, "What makes a prince a prince? A broad and well-defined sphere of influence that enables clarity of purpose and focused expression of will. My sphere of influence is well-defined, but not particularly broad, so I am a mere demi-prince, an entity of power and consequence far outstripping that of any mortal, but trivial compared to the greater princes. I have ambitions, of course, like every Ada, but I keep them within my sphere, lest I suffer the same fate as you-know-who." I think he's talking about Jigalag there, who maybe he was trying to get outside his sphere, and so went mad in the knowing. He is a prince of order, but he is an agent of chaos. That's what I take from that. Yes.
I mean, maybe, but again, that's just like, it's up to interpretation, so I'm not going to say yes or no either way, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that's, up for interpretation. Absolutely. But that was the thing I was looking for. Can they travel to other spheres though? I don't know.
Physically,
They
yes.
can send parts of themselves to other spheres.
I mean, what are we defining?
Memo spores.
What are we defining as a sphere?
I think he means
Meridius
planes.
screwed around with Moloch Ball.
Ma-
Explicitly, we see this in ESO.
Mataka in chat is talking about how, I mean, there's the planes, but the sphere is like a portfolio. It is what they are a god of. Take Zeus, for example. His sphere would be thunder, lightning, maybe some kind of hierarchy, kind of like a patriarchy sort of thing.
Weird fetish for being an animal and raping human women.
Yeah, that could be part of it.
Definitely part of it. You've read about that guy?
Athena was a goddess of war strategy and wisdom, so that would be her sphere. But the sphere of influence, it means portfolio. For a prince to extend outside their sphere is fairly uncommon, if not unheard of altogether. And this is something that I talk about fairly often. I talk about how the princes are bound to their spheres. Take Molag Bal, for example. Do I believe that rape is a terrible, terrible thing, and that those who do it should be punished by the full extent of the law and beyond? Yes, absolutely. But does that make Molag Bal evil? Do we consider a dog that bites evil, or a bee that stings, or a bear that mauls somebody? They're just doing what they do. And Molag Bal, just happens to rape. That is what he does. He is a constant dominator. And because that is his sphere, he is a slave to it. Yeah, he is a slave to it, ironically, which is wherein his duality lies. He is the quintessential slave driver, and he is the quintessential slave. He cannot do what is outside his sphere. He cannot show compassion. He cannot be a nice guy. That's just not a thing he can do. And so that's, I attribute that kind of thing to all the princes, right? Clavicus Vile will always try to get the upper hand in a deal. That's just what he does. That's why Barbas exists. Because
Even when Molag Bal tried to be nice, he crushed Vivek's feet and forcefully married him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how much of that can we blame on Molag Bal and not on his nature? What's the parable with the scorpion and the frog? The scorpion asks the frog, "Hey, can you ferry me across the river?" And the frog says, "Well, you'll sting me." He says, "No, I promise I won't." So he says, "Okay, get on." The scorpion climbs on the back of the frog. The frog begins swimming, and the scorpion stings the frog. He says, "Why? Why did you sting me? You promised you wouldn't." "It's in my nature," the scorpion says. Is the scorpion really a bad guy, or is it just his nature? Is Molag Bal necessarily evil, or is it just his nature? Yeah, we consider the things he does to be evil, but to what extent do we apply that to the entity Molag Bal itself? And I mean, that's why Tess becomes really an exercise in philosophy, at least for me. Philosophy and literature, and I mean, this is what I love about it. It's so all over the place. So with that, is there anything else that we want to talk about? We're about an hour and 45 minutes in.
Really?
So, I don't know, robots, you got anything else? I eat too much pizza. It's just in my nature. Hey, man, same. Although for me, it's beer. I'm not an alcoholic, but, I know my way around.
Kind of.
You only ever see me drinking, but I make a point to drink when we do this. That's what I do.
Beer cast.
Yeah, beer cast. Yeah, this Spruce Tip IPA is delicious. See, it's weird because I'm not really an IPA guy. My palate's kind of changed over the last month or so. It's more refreshing in the heat. Anything else? Anyone? Before we kill it?
I think we can wrap this up. At least it was better than last time.
Oh yeah. Because I actually got you guys in the Yeah. So
we didn't have to do the the rapid fire.
Yeah. No, that was a
summarization.
huge pain.
That
Was a huge
pain. It was fun, but it was a huge pain.
Let's never do that again.
If we ever have to do it again, we're not going to actually explain anything. You're just going to have to accept my memeish jokes about what the summarization is.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, well, I think I'm going to call it there. Everybody wave goodbye. Bye, Internet.
I'm waving. Can't see me, but I'm waving.
Joke's on you because they can't see you, and I knew that when I said so. Okay. All right. Bon voyage, and we'll see you next time.
Arrivederci.